when you look at the plastic, the PET bottle, it's a very, very different surface. And the bubbles actually are much more comfortable sticking to that surface. And so you'll notice that rather than going up in really nice streams, those bubbles start, but then they stick to the walls and they kind of creep up. And it looks like a kind of random mess. But that same principle, that what you need is a starting point, actually applies. So I think we might just try the Coke trick in miniature, but without the device. Let's just drop this in here. And what we'll do is we'll catalyze the release of the CO2. So we'll drop it in there. And you can see that, well, it's sped up a little bit, but not hugely, okay? Because, of course, this stuff, because it was already sort of releasing quite nicely. So the rate at which the bubbles are produced, right, depends on the surface of your glass, right? And so in order to be able to make, to keep the gas in the liquid, what we need is a very, very clean glass with very, very few imperfections, and certainly no little chips of ceramic in there to kind of mess things up. Now, the gas that we're releasing is, of course, the one that we all talk about, and I think we should think about carbon dioxide for a moment. Now, the first thing is, how many of you have actually tasted carbon dioxide? Have you tasted carbon dioxide? Yeah? You may have done. It's quite possible. I mean, you know, some people sort of taste it on a fairly regular basis. Others don't. I mean, one option is that you could go and get yourself a little bit of dry ice, like this. And you can taste the mint. And you'll notice that, yeah, you're completely horrified. Eyes like sausage. But here is a little bit of carbon dioxide, right? It's at minus 100 degrees. And you'll notice that it smokes very gently. And if I do pop it in my mouth, you can see that we can get those little plumes coming out. And what it's able to do is to cool the already saturated air in my mouth quite a bit. And in doing so, it condenses the moisture into tiny visible droplets. But carbon dioxide is something that we spend a lot of our lives with. And it'd be interesting to know how far some of you have come. What distance are your schools from here? And how far did you travel to get here? Is there anyone within, let's say, 5 kilometers of here? Yeah, okay, there's one school. Which school is that? Which? European school, okay. How did you come here? By public transport? By bus, yeah, okay. So, let me just pour in the amount of carbon dioxide, right, that each one of you, give or take, will have produced through your bus trip in the course of that little journey to and from here. With 5 kilometers to 5 kilometers from, or thereabouts, we're talking about a kilo of CO2. And the astonishing thing is, of course, we never see it. Right? We're completely unaware that that's happening. And these are things that we actually need to think about, because if you start thinking about an event like this, let's imagine you've all come the equivalent of, let's say on average, 10 miles. Let's not use SI units. But you know, each one of you essentially generated a kilo of CO2 traveling here. You know, we're talking about 200 kilos, which is substantial. My trip from London, according to Eurostar, was about just under 40 kilograms of CO2. I find that a little bit optimistic, and I suspect there may be some marketing wheeze to make it sound less. But that's a lot of CO2. And because CO2, and I'm not going to bore you with the usual sort of climate change things. I'm sure you're all sick of it. But because CO2 is so important to us, I think we should stop for a moment and think a little bit about its properties, what it does, and how we actually use it in everyday life. Now what I've done is I've put a little bit of CO2 here into this tank. And what I'd like to do is a classic 19th century demo. And what I need to do is to blow more bubbles. Now, you'll realize that this is something I'm exceptionally reluctant to do because of my track record this morning. Maybe I should invite somebody out of the audience to come and do it. Does anyone want to come and fail to blow bubbles for me? Oh, go on. There must be someone who's really properly in contact with your inner child. Yeah. Come on. Okay? Now, what you do, and I'm just going to turn this thing around so that we can see properly, is I'd like you to take the bubble mix, and what I want you to do is to blow some bubbles. And I want you to blow them from about here so that they end up in the tank. Now, you'll notice that the carbon dioxide has been sitting here, right? Whoa! Can you do that again? And don't stand too far back because you missed with most of them. Stand a little bit further forward. So let's see if you can get a few more in. Now, I don't know whether you noticed, but some of those bubbles are not doing what they should do. Try go again. Oops. You see, it's not just me. Trick bubbles. Look at that bubble. Now the bubble remains beautifully suspended.